Manchester United's financial struggles continue with further redundancies confirmed. Christopher Vivell has been appointed as Manchester United's permanent director of recruitment. Victor Osimhen wants to join Manchester United, with reports of Napoli wanting Rasmus Højlund. Branthwaite remains on United's radar. A possible solution for Mason Mount. Talks are progressing with Geovany Quenda, with super agent Jorge Mendes now involved. All this plus more in today's news as we run through all the latest Manchester United news and transfer news that will keep you right up to date with everything. Welcome to Man United Review. My name's Jamie. Before we get into it, smash a like on the video. Let's jump straight into it. So let's kick off with, obviously, all the talk of the town at the moment is the financial mess that United are in. I think it's being compounded by the misery on the pitch as well, but it's never good for people to be losing their jobs, especially with the whole kind of mismanagement of United's finances in the past. But let's go through all the latest kind of news. So firstly, Manchester United have appointed Christopher Vivell as Director of Recruitment on a full-time basis following an interim spell in the position. The club has signed a multi-year agreement with reduced salary. Christopher Vivell will lead global recruiting, scouting, structure, and emerging talent. So that came from the man, the myth, the legend himself, Mr. David Ornstein, confirming that Christopher Vivell has now been given his job as Director of Recruitment on a full-time basis. He will answer directly, according to the report, to Jason Wilcox. No new announcement on, Director of Football and all of that kind of stuff as well. But he is kind of widely regarded behind the scenes in the industry as a very good eye for talent and, a rebuilder of kind of teams as well. So I don't think actually our recruitment since INEOS has came in has actually been okay. When you think about it, all the players that we've signed so far have actually been all right compared to the ones that we've signed previously and stuff. He needs to work his magic though this summer, especially if we're going to be like on a tight budget. We need to recruit better. That has been one of the biggest problems at United, is recruiting the wrong profile of player, spending too much money on players, and that whole kind of jazz, which has got us in the financial mess that we're in the first place, as well as having owners that have sucked pennies out of the club for no input from themselves. But yeah, let me know what you think about Christopher Vivell in the comments. Now let's go through, obviously, the talk around the financial situation. So Manchester United is to transform its corporate structure as part of a series of additional measures to improve the club's financial stability and enhance operational efficiency. The transformation plan aims to return the club to a profitability after 5 consecutive years of losses since 2019. This will create a more solid financial platform from which the club can invest in men's and women's football success and improved infrastructure. As part of these measures, the club anticipates that approximately 150 to 200 jobs may be made redundant, subject to a consultation process with employees. These would be in addition to the 250 roles removed last year. So that came from the official Manchester United website, confirming that between 150 to 200 more redundancies at the club on top of the 250 that they made last year as well. And, there's two ways to look at this kind of thing. Like, I don't want anyone to lose their job at all ever, when it comes to specifically staffers at Manchester United and stuff, right? Because I don't ultimately think they're responsible for the financial mess that we're in. A lot of that is to do with people way above these sort of people that are losing their jobs and stuff. But then on the flip side, I do understand that we need to reduce a bloated squad, because we do have more staff than any other team in the Premier League as well, when it's not exactly like we're getting a benefit from that because we're currently 15th. So it's not like having a bigger workforce is an advantage to us, because there's teams that do way better than us with much less staff. But on the flip side, those clubs are not as big as United as well. So there's lots more to do at United, because there's, we're more of a bigger club and a more world renowned club as well. But I just don't like the whole situation of what's going on at United at the moment. But it is what it is. It's been announced. It's happening. Let me know what you think in the comments. So Omar Barada, United's the CEO, had the following to say: "We have a responsibility to put Manchester United in the strongest position to win across our men's, women's and academy teams. We are initiating a wide-ranging series of measures which will transform and renew the club. Unfortunately, this means announcing further potential redundancies, and we deeply regret the impact of those affected colleagues. However, these hard choices are necessary to put the club back on a stable financial footing. We have lost money for the past 5 consecutive years. This cannot continue. Our 2 main priorities as a club are delivering success on the pitch for our fans and improving our facilities. We cannot invest in these objectives if we continuously lose money. At the end of the process, we will have a more lean, agile and financial stable football club while continuing to provide a world-class service to our valuable commercial partners. We would then be in a much stronger position to invest in football success and improve facilities for fans while remaining compliant with UEFA and Premier League regulations. So that was what Omar Barada had to say regarding the situation. But like I said, it's shit. It's not nice for anyone to be kind of losing their jobs, especially with the waste and abuse at United as well. But you know, the thing is, right, they were always going to trim the workforce. Most new owners, when they come in, or even though there's a partial takeover, will look at the kind of losses. Obviously, INEOS and Ratcliffe, they are business people, so they are going to look to kind of trim it down. It just stinks of hypocrisy to me when you're letting kind of staff go and you're hiding behind the financial reasons for it. When on the flip side, our owners have never put a single penny into the club, bought it on debt, and we're spending 20 to 30 million pound a season on interest payments on the debt. I just find that really, really insulting to the poor people that are going to be losing their jobs at United. I just find it really kind of sad, but that's the mess that we're in at the moment. But let me know what you think in the comments. Now, in Monday's meeting about redundancies delivered by Omar Barada, it was mentioned that the cost and savings associated with these measures have been calculated under the assumption that United would qualify for the Europa League for the next 4 years. So what they're effectively saying is that we're working out our budget on Europa League football for the next 4 years, not Champions League football. That might be a good and a bad thing, because if you budget for the worst and you do end up in the Champions League, then obviously it just gives us more money to spend in the right areas. So I suppose it's maybe the kind of, the right approach, because obviously we've been spending Champions League money on a Europa League with a Europa League squad, and that's what's kind of caused a lot of the mess in the first place. The question is, though, what happens if we don't make the Europa League this season? How much of an impact will that make for the summer? That will probably, I think this summer will be okay, because we've got some players that we can potentially sell and move on. So I do think the wage bill is going to come down a lot, which will give us some wiggle room with PSR, but it's next season and so on. But yeah, that's an interesting kind of one. Budgeting for the Europa League. Fantastic. The code way of implementing the transformation plan at Manchester United by INEOS is eroding togetherness, leading to a situation with morale at its lowest, which, as Amram admitted, affects the environment. So Melissa Reddy, who's a good source, saying that all of these kind of job cuts and stuff like that are going on is massively affecting the environment. Amram's confirmed the same as well. That will have an impact on players, because some of these will be people that have been around for years, that they're comfortable with, that do like specific jobs, and it is just a kind of mess, isn't it? It is a mess. So I do think that will have an impact, obviously, on everyone at the club. Like we're pissed off about it. I'm pissed off about it, and I'm just a fan with a microphone. And I'm sure you're probably feeling the same as well. I mean, you might have different opinions on bits as well, but I'm sure you're pissed off with it as well, and it's probably affected how you feel about the club as well. So players are no different. Amram himself on the redundancy said it's hard for everybody to see their friends and teammates losing their job. Again, we have to focus on what I can do to help the club in this moment. And we as a club have to understand what we did wrong to get to this situation. Yeah, that's a good point from Amram. You need to learn from the mistakes as well. It's just unfortunately that the mistakes are still going to be here, which is the Glazers. But yeah, it's a fair comment from Ruben Amram. And as I've just mentioned there, let's not forget, that dividends that has been paid out since 2013 to 2025 in millions of pounds. Manchester United have paid £132 million to the Glazers in dividends, so that's our money going to them for no benefit for Manchester United whatsoever when you compare that to some of the other teams in the league. So Chelsea, City, Arsenal, Spurs, Liverpool, Newcastle, West Ham, Aston Villa, Everton, all of their owners have taken exactly £0 in dividends out, yet our greedy leeches have taken £132 million in dividends out of the club as well. That's on top of all the interest payments for the debt, and the debt keeps going up as well. They've not actually paid off any of the debt since they bought the club nearly 20 years ago as well. It's just an absolute shambles. how is this still being allowed to happen at United? It's just, it's borderline criminality what the Glazers have done to Manchester United. But that's all the latest regarding the financial situation. I said in yesterday's video, I'd give you any updates. There was expected to be the job losses. There's been the job losses as well. So give us your thoughts in the comments. Now let's move on to some transfer news. So one way that we could be looking to get some extra funds in this summer. So several clubs are looking to take advantage of Manchester United's financial crisis by offering instant cash to buy sell-on clauses for players who have left. Now that's an interesting one. I actually, depending on the player, of course, but if you remember Willy Camboala, Hannibal Mabry, like those sort of players that we let kind of go in the summer included like sell-on clauses. So, and I think Mason Greenwood's a big example of one. He's got like a 50% sell-on clause. We can actually increase that to 60, I think, as well. So the sort of things that they're on about. So what they're saying is that some clubs might pay us some money, give us some cash to remove that kind of sell-on clause. So let's say, I don't know, Hannibal Mabry, for example, if they wanted to sell him for like 10 million at the moment, we might have a 50% sell-on clause. So that means that they would only get 5 million for his sale. But if they maybe say, okay, well, we'll buy his clause for 3 million, give you 3 million cash, remove that kind of clause, then if they sell him, they'll make 7 million instead of the 5, as an example. There's a pretty shit example, but in my head that made sense. Apologies if it didn't out loud, but actually that's probably not a decent. I think it just depends on the player, doesn't it? If the player we still think might be one that actually has, like Mason Greenwood, no way we should be doing that because he's absolutely bossing it and it's expected that he might get a big move in the future. But for someone like Hannibal Mabry or Willy Camboala or someone like that, for example, who's maybe not going to command like a massive transfer fee in the future, then maybe that's not a bad option. But let me know what you make of that below. Now, Mason Mount's return date still remains unknown. That came from the Evening Standard. So Mason Mount still, apparently, Amram in his press conference today said there was no update or no new players returning from injuries. So we're at the end of February now, and there is still no update or no return date set for Mason Mount, which is absolutely insane to me. I was looking at this earlier, and I think by my calculations, he has made a whopping 32 appearances since he came to United and managed 1 goal and 1 assist. 32 appearances from Mason Mount, which is absolutely ridiculous. Now that's and there's somebody, we talk about finances, and this is why I have a bit of a bugbear around the financial situation at United, is because you're paying someone 250 grand a week who's made 32 appearances since he signed for us with 1 goal and 1 assist, literally not contributing anything to the team at the moment, yet we're laying off, average kind of staff and stewards and all these kind of people that are just on basic salaries, and it just doesn't feel right for me. But one solution for that would be, this one, so Inter Milan are interested in signing Mason Mount on loan with an option to buy this summer. Now that came from Inter Live. That would be a good shout. Because we're going to struggle to sell Mason Mount in the summer, because who's going to buy a player that's made 13 appearances this season so far? I mean, obviously, there's still a little bit of the season to go, but effectively, it's end of February and he's made 13 appearances. He's not, and with PSR, it's going to be a loss because we're not going to get anywhere near the £55 million that we paid for him back. But sending them on loan with an option to buy would be okay for me, as long as they pay like a big chunk of his salary, because as I mentioned, he's on 250 grand a week, one of our highest earners. So if we could get that down, at least then it saves. If you could save yourself, 150 grand a week, that frees up some wiggle room with PSR. Yes, it's not ideal, but realistically, it'd be ideal to sell Mount, but no one's going to pay anything for him in the summer. So if we can do a loan with an option to buy and just pray to God he goes away to a different league that's less intense and less kind of physical and manages to stay fit and maybe gets himself a permanent news in the summer afterwards, that's probably a decent shout, because it is what it is with Mount. Like I said, we're kind of trapped in its wage and is obviously his injury record. I don't think anyone's gonna be knocking on the door to pay fortunes for Mason Mount in the summer. Manchester United are fearing that they will struggle to find a buyer for Rasmus Højlund in the summer, and they may be forced to keep him as a squad player or listen to loan offers. That came from Danny Russ and Dean Jones from Gimme Sport. Good, decent sources as well. But, I'd be cool with loaning him out. I'd be cool with keeping him, actually. I just don't think he's, of the standard to be our number one striker at the moment. He might become good in the future. He's still young. He's still got, plenty of development in him. So I don't necessarily agree with him being written off entirely at this stage. But, he definitely shouldn't be, we definitely need an upgrade in that position, in my opinion. So actually, I'd be cool with potentially loan him out, or even him being, you know, a backup to somebody else to learn off of. I'd be kind of cool with that as well. But obviously he's not, you know, he's not in the best of forms, is he? Now, the other striker that has been heavily linked with us, it literally seems like every day I'm doing a video or some kind of report regarding Victor Osimhen. Some of them are nonsense. Some of them, you know, I've no idea the credibility are. Some of them are just bullshit. This one, however, came from a very, very credible Turkish outlet, Turkish journalist, sorry. He's known as like the Fabrizio Romano of Turkey, saying that Victor Osimhen wants to join Manchester United. A tier 1 source coming from Turkey. Obviously, Osimhen's playing in Turkey, so I don't know quite what to make of the Osimhen stories, because on one side, there's no smoke without fire, right? And we are getting heavily linked with him. That's a good source of information there as well. Some of the other ones have been a little bit kind of, we'll have to wait and see, or I'd want to see a bit more credibility, but that is a bit more credibility. Regarding Osimhen. It's just on the flip side, how are we going to afford him and his wages when we're, you know, skin and laying off people? Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm just confused by the whole situation. But that is a good source of information, and as I mentioned, there's no smoke without fire. But then, is it a deal that we can afford with the wages and stuff as well? I'm not sure on that as well. So I'm very confused. So let me know in the comments what you think about the whole kind of Osimhen situation, because like I said, good source. You know, I'm keeping an eye on it for you. Let me know what you think below. The one solution to both issues, Højlund and Osimhen, would be a swap deal. Let's you know, I'll go for this first and then I'll give my thoughts on it. So Napoli are interested in signing Rasmus Højlund, but would only be willing to pay a fraction of the £72 million that Manchester United bought him for. United have a strong interest in Napoli striker Victor Osimhen, but sources say a potential swap deal for Højlund is complicated. That came from Alex Crook from TalkSport, who's not the most credible source. So I would say take that story with a pinch of salt. Swaps in football don't happen. It would be like we buy Osimhen and then maybe they would use the money to buy Højlund. That would potentially be happening, but where there's no direct swaps that kind of go on in football, it's just too complicated with financial fair play and PSR rules and stuff. But that would be interesting. I mean, they might remain or retain interest in Garnacho as well, so there could be a deal to be done with Napoli, depending on, you know, if they're interested in Garnacho and we want to sell Garnacho again. If they were interested in Højlund and we want to do something with Osimhen, that would potentially be a way out of it. But I would say take that story with a pinch of salt, because Alex Crick's not the most credible source. I'd want way more credibility than that regarding the situation. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Now, Manchester United are still interested in Jarrad Branthwaite and are ready to fight Liverpool for his signature. Branthwaite agreed personal terms with United last summer, and he will want the move while Everton plan to offer him a new contract. Again, that came from Gimme Sport. You know, that could be an option, you know, in the summer. We clearly wanted Branthwaite because, like it says there, we did agree personal terms with him, made 3 bids as well. Apparently Liverpool do want him. You know, they're in a much better position than we are. Sick in my mouth. But, you know, that's the reality. They're about to win. They're about to go level on us with Premier League wins, and you know, we're sat in the glorious height of 15th, worried about relegation. So I wouldn't blame Branthwaite, you know, wanting to go to Liverpool at the moment. But, you know, depends on the price again, doesn't it? We bid for 50 million, was it 55 million? I think we went up to, and they wanted like 80 million pounds because they were saying, well, we want, you know, Maguire money, and you can't really blame Everton for that, but they were trying to pull our pants down with that deal. So we'll keep an eye on it. Could be a player to watch, especially with Martinez being out for, you know, God knows how long. Could be up to a year with his kind of injury. Maybe we would be looking to bring in another centre-half, and obviously Branthwaite, Premier League experience as well. Some of you have been mentioning in comments actually recently. I agree, getting people with Premier League experience would be advantageous for us this summer as well. But let me know what you think about that in the comments. And then the final story I've got for you is regarding Quenda. So talks are advancing between Manchester United and Sporting for Geovany Quenda. Jorge Mendes is directly involved in the negotiation. So that came from Ben Jacobs, who can be hit and miss sometimes, but we know there's heavy interest in Quenda. He's a player that I think they're trying to get done and dusted before the transfer window opens. If Jorge Mendes is involved, that obviously means that they're going to be close to some kind of agreement, because generally he's like he's a super agent that comes in to kind of close these deals down as well. So that's one to kind of keep an eye on. I think there could be something in the Quenda deal. Like, I'm quite optimistic about Quenda. The Osimhen one, I don't know. I don't know what to make of it because it's a good source, as I mentioned, but, you know, where are we going to find that sort of money available just makes no sense. Convince me in the comments. Let me know your opinions. Let me know what you think about all the other topics discussed in today's video, because that's you all up to date with the latest news and transfer news. Smash a like on the video anyway, subscribe to the channel if you're new. See you in the next one.